I would be hard pressed to find an agency that isn't already engaging with AI to see what they can do for their process, whether that's early in ideation, production management, or through to finished pixel. It's just a reality of the creative industry now.
Hi, I'm Greg Stuart, CEO of MMA Global, the international nonprofit trade association for CMOs who are focused on architecting a new future of marketing.
I'm Rex Briggs, an author, market researcher, measurement inventor, and entrepreneur.
Hi, I'm Greg Stuart, CEO of Marketing Media Alliance.
I'm Rex Briggs, an author, marketing researcher, and entrepreneur, and this is Decoding AI for Marketing.
So Rex, listen, let's take a little trip down memory lane here on this one. Remember the early days of the show a couple of years ago, we talked about how amazing it would be. Lex, I think when we started the show, OpenAI was releasing Sora, I think was about that time. Yeah. And while that was revolutionary to see what it could be done, it didn't take you very long to go, I don't know, characters with 6 fingers, that's not really going to work for me.
Yeah. Even if you're trying to sell diamond rings and you want to have an extra finger for it, doesn't work, right? So it just
I didn't think of it from a marketing perspective. That's very good. I have to remember that exactly. We give all characters 6 rings, so 6 fingers, we can sell more.
Well, that was a Tabasco trick. How do I sell more Tabasco? Make the hole bigger so it pours out quicker. Yeah, people want realism in their videos. The good news back then is we said, look, you can do generative AI for audio ads right now. It can write the scripts. The voices are really good. Sound effects are great. Display was sort of the frontier there. It was almost there. And everyone was saying, man, video, that's what we really want. That's what really communicates our brand.
Yeah,
we know that right now from the CEO CMO Summit that you host in Santa Barbara in July every year, that companies like Dave.com already are doing this for their TikTok videos. They presented and shared that, and we had Monks, the agency, showing different things that could be done. Runway's been a really important part of this overall ecosystem. You mentioned Sora, VO3 is another competitor out there. So I'm really excited because it feels like the moment is occurring, and my questions are, how do we move the industry faster? Because if you can remove the creative design bottleneck, my God, you can get to personalization, and so much more is possible with marketing, right?
There's so much opportunity. So let's just jump right into it here, because I think we're super excited to have the Chief Creative Officer at Runway, which will give him background. He can give us background on that. But Jamie Umpherson is here to join us. Jamie, how you doing?
Welcome, Jamie.
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for having me today.
Hey, Jamie, let's ask a really quick question. So you chose to step away from the world of advertising, marketing, I guess at some level, and jump into a tech company.
Yes.
Maybe that's the question and the answer. That's it. Okay, of course. Maybe the answer is of course. I don't know.
No, I worked in advertising for, 12, 15 years.
Yeah.
For the last near decade of that, I was freelancing a lot in New York, popping into agencies of all sizes, holding companies, independents, selling a lot of work, trying to produce a lot of work. And for me, there was just so much always left behind in the back of the deck, the graveyard of all the ambitious ideas you wanted to get to, but never got bought because they were too expensive, too time intensive, would just not be easy enough to convey to a client even. And so I was always personally looking out at technologies that could help me create the ideas that clients weren't buying. And that's how I actually found out about Runway. Before it was Runway, it was the research project of our 3 founders who were at NYU ITP, which often referred to as Art School for Engineers or Engineering School for Artists. Yeah, you're obviously familiar.
Yeah, I know the program. Yeah, it's a great program. Yeah, a lot of really good people from the whole interactive space have come out of there. Yeah.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, what they were doing is they were putting accessibility forward to technology that could serve creative. And so that's how I found out about the work they were doing. And then I joined back in 2022 to just make the ideas I wanted to make with the technology and help build it.
Wow.
Well, I imagine you have a couple different constituencies. You have Hollywood and you have independent creators that want to be able to build something that they wouldn't be able to build before. I thought that there was a story about the movie, what was it? Anything, Everywhere? What was it?
It's a tough one. Everything at once.
There we go. Where Runway is an absolutely important part of what they produced. We're interested, of course, in marketing. It feels like marketing is being a little bit more slow to adopt the technology compared to what we see with independent creators or filmmakers or Hollywood writ large. What's your take on it, and what do marketers need to do to take advantage of this technology? What are they missing if they haven't used it yet?
Right. I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges is just adopting any new software or technology in the agency world, right? These are big organizations with a lot of procurement processes, et cetera. I remember when Google Slides was first coming into effect, trying to get that going to the creative team in the agency, and there was a big bottleneck there. So
just to adopt slides, that's crazy.
Ouch.
Stuff in InDesign. But I think that's been one of the hardest things, is just operationalizing it. You'll see a lot of creatives inside agencies who are utilizing the tools on their own accounts, exploring from a creative perspective. But also things are changing quite a bit as well. Like adoption has skyrocketed over the last 1-2 years in terms of not only the agencies and brands that are adopting the tools, but also where in the process they're actually leveraging them, right? From simple early ideation all the way through production.
Hey, Jamie, can you name names? Name names who's doing, who are the marketers leading the charge? No, I think that's important.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, agencies from Wieden+Kennedy to
Okay.
Gut to the Publicis of the world,
Okay.
IPG.
Which marketers are kind of accepting it? And then kind of to the last point of the last part of your point earlier there, like, where do you think it's showing up? Like, where are they using it? Just so the listener here has an orientation of that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's been some really great work done for Under Armour, leveraging Runway. 2 examples I can think of top of head is about probably 2 years ago now. This is prior to the state-of-the-art video models that we're all used to now, like Gen 4.5. This was back in Gen 2, which was our first text-to-video model. Production company out in LA called Tool of North America. They do really wonderful traditional production, and they also work directly with clients on concept stuff as well. And they basically got asked by the client, we need to put together a spot, but we don't have access to talent, and we only have 3 weeks, which traditional production is going to be a pretty big challenge, right?
Yeah, I think that gets you hung up on, right? Go ahead. Yeah.
There's a few bottlenecks there that are hard to solve for. But what they did was they leveraged Runway for some image to video and text to video, as well as some archival footage that the brand had, and then created a hybrid production that allowed them to shave not only time off the production schedule and budget, but also like make a piece that otherwise they just wouldn't have been able to make. And more recently, a Havas group agency, Tropico, down in Chile, produced a 30-second spot for Under Armour, where they basically utilized Runway to edit existing footage that they shot. So it was a field hockey ad. And what they did was they shot it day for night, and then using Runway, they were able to actually add flames to the field hockey sticks, which, that's an expensive and pretty difficult practical shoot. And it's also a really hard VFX pipeline.
Yeah, fire's hard.
Fire's very hard. You got interactive lighting on the grass, on the subjects.
Yeah.
Tough. Time intensive, very expensive, and hard to actually make it look good and convincing.
Hey, can I ask a dumb question? Does this just replace CGI, or just the fact I asked the question like that means I'm too old to matter?
I mean, I think that's one of the most obvious places where it can live.
So CGI is dead for all practical purposes at this point, right?
I think the way we think of CGI is
Yeah.
dead. But
Yeah. Sorry, maybe I'm over rotating on Star Wars. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I think we can just think of it as a new pipeline, right? A new piece to fit within a larger pipeline. There's still going to be levers of control that you're always going to want that the models might not be ready for or might not be appropriate for. And so it's really, how do we bring these new tools in concert with traditional pipelines, which is what we really focus on with the way we build and how we work with enterprise partners, whether it's in the advertising world, marketing world, or film studios.
But I think the big question here, in some regards, is is it ready for prime time? Specifically, are advertisers creating? And listen, by the way, I don't think this is the only measure of success, so don't take my question wrong. But as a marketer, are marketers producing 30-second linear television broadcast ads? Just to be kind of old school about it. To what degree are they doing that now?
I mean, we're definitely seeing it.
Okay.
But I think the more interesting opportunity is going beyond that format, right?
Yeah.
Extending into new opportunities that these tools offer.
Yeah, I don't want to limit the question by. I don't want to. That's what I was saying. I don't want to just evaluate it based on that. But this kind of marker, because listen, as Rex knows, we did a bunch of work last year with creating some agentic ads. Worked with Monks and some of their systems that they had built in house to go do that. Maybe for all we know, it was you guys. I don't know. I think they used Adobe a lot on that. But what was interesting about that is that the so I got a board of CMOs, and the 25 CMOs in the room were basically, we think this is 65% there. Now, personally, I thought it was 75, 80, but who's going to parse that? But like they thought 65. Remember that, Rex? That they said 65%.
Yeah, and it was interesting because it's like,
I don't
really?
know.
This seems a lot further along than that.
Yeah, kind
How
of.
long ago was that you said?
This would have been
July of
last year.
So
That's a lot of months.
it does.
Maybe you're right.
That's dog years here that we're living here.
Well, so maybe are there? And again, I want to be careful about the way I'm asking that question because it's a misleading way. I'm doing that, but it's just the wrong marker. What I said before. So how many advertisers are producing? They're held dearly 30-second television ad. I mean, that's kind of the way I put that particular format.
Yeah, it's a great question. Again, I think a lot of agencies and brands are still approaching this as a hybrid opportunity, right? Where can we cut down on the production cost and timeline? So the Under Armour example is a great one. Another really good example, Chime, the financial services company.
Yeah, Vinny's on my board. Yeah, I like them. Yeah.
Yeah, so what they're doing is they're using Runway to basically take UGC photos of users of their product who've submitted, which are all different lighting, different compositions, different levels of quality, and then they're utilizing Runway to sort of unify all of that to create really nice on-brand end card moments, which smaller use case, but I think a really good application for how you can approach that hybrid production mentality where, again, you're stretching the ambition and the production value of your outputs without having to incur that cost.
So Jamie, I want you to think about the transition that we had in electrification, where before electrification, you couldn't have an elevator, and without an elevator, you couldn't have a skyscraper, and without skyscrapers, you couldn't really have cities or the density of cities, and how that changed
Rex, I
everything.
figured you were
It feels
asking
like
the electrification question, founding status to me, because I'm the oldest guy here, so I wasn't really sure where you were going with that a little bit.
Well, I was going to ask you, Greg, what it was like before electricity. Coming back to Jamie.
Whale oil lamps, right? Exactly.
So Jamie, I mean, it really feels like this is more than just speeding up the production process. This is like the elevator that creates a skyscraper that creates a city. By making the whole production process potentially agentic and faster, you're creating whole new use cases. Yeah. What do you see? I mean, some of it might be more interactivity, people being to be able to be in the world. I believe you guys are advancing a world model that perhaps you can talk about. And maybe it's just being more personalization. Like we had the Rami Kent, the CMO, at the time she was CMO at Progressive. She did Gen AI audio about 2 years ago now. Normally she would do 3 ads and it would take 16 weeks. She did 96 ads and it took 1 week. So you're really changing the whole dynamic of what you can do. Talk to us about what you see as how the world's going to change. What's that electrification moment that gives us skyscrapers and cities in the runway world?
Yeah, that's such a great question.
Such a great question. Yeah, it is. It is the question. Yeah. What is Jamie? Explain the future to us completely comprehensively and in detail, if you could, please. And
I'm glad and a
timeline, right?
I mean, I think that's the exact right way to approach the way that we're looking at these tools. And we can talk about efficiencies and we can talk about upping your outputs and shrinking the timelines, but the reality is there's going to be a new medium that emerges from this ability to produce nearly at the speed of thought, right? Like if you think about why these tools exist and what they enable, it's really shrinking the gap between having an idea and being able to share it with others, right? Like that's the business that we're in. We sell ideas and then we need to go and make the thing. And usually there's a big lag in between that. And oftentimes it's what comes in between, right? The production, the cost, et cetera, that ends up changing the initial idea quite a bit, right? It shoehorns it into an existing structure or format or deliverable type. And so we end up like repeating the thing that we've done before quite a bit, right? But I think what we're moving towards, if we want to talk about skyscrapers, think of the camera that led to TikTok, but you would never be able to draw that 150 years ago, right? So
I'm not even sure 5 years ago almost, by the way, on that one. I think
absolutely.
TikTok's right about there. Yeah. Go ahead.
Right about there, and really only in the last year and a half, 2 years has it really made the shift that I think we're all seeing and experiencing.
So number one media channel for me.
Yeah, it's
very clear. I would look at my phone.
Transformative. But that is what we're looking towards, and I think you mentioned world models, right? We announced our General World Model 1 back in December. It's a research effort that we started years ago and talked about. We produced a really great video that tried to explain what the conceit is, but at the end of the day, it's a model that understands the world that we live in and that we operate in, so that you can then simulate it, right? And sometimes that means interactive experience. Sometimes it means flying a camera through a virtual space to shoot something virtually. But I think it's also going to lead to these new mediums.
Hey, Jamie, you should explain what world model means, or I don't know,
yeah.
Rex or
yeah,
Jamie.
no, I think
Somebody
he
explain what that means
kind
for
of
the
did.
listener.
I mean, probably the point we can move on fairly quickly from, just for the listener, is that what we have today isn't a world model. It is trying to predict the next pixel of where things go. And because of that, that's how you get the sixth finger, though I think we've done a good job getting rid of the fingers that shouldn't be there. But there's still these small artifacts because it doesn't actually understand the physics of the world, or the way that things work and the way that objects interact and so forth. So that's maybe, Jamie, if you can say more if you want, but hopefully that's enough for the listener to then see what and maybe describe where you think world models get us that we can't get to today.
Right. Sorry, could you just prime me real quick and then I'll jump on that?
Yeah, I mean, just if you can really talk about like maybe the new media that you envision, the more interactive, immersive environments that are possible, or maybe it's just the scale and speed at which people can go because they don't have to fix weird errors that come up or pay much attention to the pixel perfect details.
And even explain maybe why AI can't do a room today in the way they can, or keep state on that kind of situation and understand how object. I mean, it really doesn't do that at all, right? That's what world models and world models is predictor to AGI, right? I mean, that's what we think it is. I think so. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
Great. So back in December of last year, we announced GWM1, which is our general world model, and it's a research effort that we announced, I think 2 years ago at this point. And basically what a general world model is a model that understands the world, right? It understands how we operate in it, the laws of that world, gravity, for example. Mm-hmm. And what that means is instead of just predicting the next pixel or frame in a video sequence, you're actually able to simulate experiences, simulate actions within a space. Which is what we're moving towards, right? Models that are capable of simulating any world you can imagine, which is where I think the real interesting opportunity starts to emerge, not just for storytelling from a narrative standpoint, but also for brands and marketers, right? One of the most interesting opportunities that we're starting to see with things like Fortnite are brand integrations where you're creating a brand world that people can live inside and act within and interact with you. And with general world models, anybody will be able to create a world like that. And it'll be fully on brand, fully interactive, and fully engaging, and real time. It's not pre-rendered. It's evolving around you as you interact with it. And actually, just yesterday, we released Runway Characters, which is essentially a real-time avatar, right? These are agentic video agents that you can build into your apps, your websites, services, experiences, which are allowing you to, again, interact in real time, which is built on top of GWM1, our general world model.
Hey, Jamie, part of the problem had to be solved there, and I don't know if the listener fully understands this, but that, how do you, listen, I look similar from day to day, but to keep character similar from frame to frame is just a very complicated problem, right?
It has been. I mean, that was,
if we were talking a year ago. That's been solved now?
Not entirely, but we're certainly much closer than we were a year ago. A year ago, that was the big challenge. It was, how do we achieve character consistency, style consistency across long-form narrative, right? We're at a place now where you can generate the same character in essentially any situation, lighting condition, wardrobe, etc., with very good consistency. But there are still, limitations, certain angles. You might lose the likeness or the essence of a person as they move through space, especially when we talk about video. So these are all things that are still challenges to be solved for. But again, looking back a year ago, if we're to look in the rearview mirror, you can see the progress that's already been made there and the problems that are already being solved for.
Does that require the world, or I should say it differently, does the world model solve that because now the object is sort of known in that world model as opposed to it being a pixel? It's now that object, which is that character. I mean, perhaps that's why you're starting with characters and avatars, is it's a great testing ground to see how well you can maintain coherence. Tell us a little bit more about what's on your mind about where you want to take this and what you think is going to help you solve.
Yeah, again, not the most technical person coming from the creative side, but I do think that generally speaking, bigger models equals better understanding. And that's what you're getting with general world models. They're much larger. There's persistence. It's not just predictive. And so that is what will allow you to create these experiences that are not just happening in real time, but are also persistent, right? They understand how you want to populate that world. So whether it's a subject that you're putting within a scene or a brand touch point you want people to interact with, it has to remain there. It has to remain within your brand guidelines and the experience that you've defined.
Yeah. Maybe we talk about the agency adoption part, back to that question, which is, you mentioned some great agencies adopting. What percentage of video ads do you think are...
They can't not be terrified of this, though, right? I mean,
maybe shift to Greg's question.
Yeah, exactly. They can't be not terrified.
I want to really try to figure out
for
where we're
those
at on
who
the
are
adoption
progressive, let
curve.
Rex ask that, right?
Well, I guess the first part is, I think where we're at in the adoption curve, if you think about the innovators, early adopters, early mainstream, and early mainstream gets you to 50%, we aren't even close to 50% of ads produced right now, where the majority of the work... Or maybe tell us where you think you're at. I mean, this is a great growth opportunity for your company, which is really exciting that we probably are only at the few percentage points of ads being produced now, with the majority of it being Runway or one of the competitors. Yeah. Tell us what you think, where we're roughly at, and what you think gets us to past the early mainstream.
I mean, the conversation has evolved considerably over the last 2 years in terms of both how we're talking about it and how people are talking about it, out in the open, in terms of how they're integrating. I think from a adoption, experimentation standpoint, there isn't an agency in the world that's not experimenting and seeing where within the process they can utilize it. I would be hard pressed to find an agency that isn't already engaging with AI to see what they can do for their process, whether that's early in ideation, production management, or through to finished pixel. It's just a reality of the creative industry now. So
it sounds like it's experimentation, adoption, totally locked in. So now the issue is which ones are actually turning their workflow to say this is the main way we're going to do it, as opposed to something you do on the side. What do you think is the turning point to get to where... or have you seen agencies say, no, this is the majority, this is the base case of how we do it, everything else is an exception?
I don't think there's a rule book, right? I don't think there's any two agencies or brands who are approaching it in the same way. Every brand carries with it their own approach to traditional creative processes. Again, for the last 8 years prior to coming here full time, I was popping in and out of agencies every other week, and it was always a different ballgame that I was playing. How we pitch ideas, how we even share ideas internally before the pitch. And then when it goes to production, okay, what's the approach that we're taking? I think probably 10, 15 years ago, we saw the big trend of both brands and agencies building in-house studios to try and take on more of the production, right? Trying to deal with smaller budgets, tighter timelines, solving for social, which was a new thing at the time. And I think what you're seeing now, again, is similar, right? A lot of agencies are, treating AI not only as a tool that the whole team's adopting, but some are treating it in a way where they're building an AI studio or an AI team to see how they can integrate and operationalize that. So different across every organization. Again, I think the bigger you get, you're always dealing with more logistics in terms of, bringing new software in, whether it be Google Slides or AI. But at the end of the day, we are seeing it throughout the whole process. Obviously, ideation is an easier thing to bring it in for in terms of where the models are today and certainly where they were 2-3 years ago. But we're seeing a lot of agencies that are, from the outset approaching projects as, okay, this is going to be a hybrid production. This is going to be an all AI piece. This is going to be traditional production, which is great as well. I think there are times and places where you want to pursue the correct production methodology for the task at hand. Just like, when CGI came out, it's not going to be the answer for everything. Sometimes you want to go out with a camera and shoot the thing.
Hey, Jimmy, when do you think maybe answer that question again, when is AI appropriate and maybe when isn't it? Or when is or if you want to answer from the perspective, when is conventional production better? Do you have a sense of that today?
Again, I think it's really case by case. I think from a brand standpoint, there are certain brands, it's all about handcrafted luxury. We've seen the trend as of late with Apple's opening mnemonic for Apple TV, right? Shot traditionally with the panes of glass and animating it. Really beautiful work, by the way.
Very good. Yeah, it's a great logo. If people don't know the logo, they used actual physical to produce that new Apple logo, right? It's really powerful. I agree.
Yeah, beautiful stuff. And that's great. That's a great application of traditional production. But then there's other brands who maybe they don't have as large a budget or as large a team or the timeline, or they just want to be across more surfaces. They want to engage with their customers in a more meaningful way, where these tools can help them do that without scaling down like the creative ambition or the actual message that they're looking to share.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It seems like what you're describing is a world where traditional production is a luxury good, and it's maybe used for luxury products,
right?
Because and it's used where people can have a very singular unifying message and they can be successful enough with it because they already have a high level of scarcity for their products. But for everybody else, the people that need to create lots of social media, they need lots of personalization because they know that they get double the conversion rate. And for them, it's about selling more volume. It's not about scarcity. It's about scaling and growth. It seems like that for that world, you have to use these tools because it's not economic not to use them. And you need a tremendous amount of volume of production to be able to keep up with a personalized experience. Is that roughly a way to think about where the separation might come?
I mean, certainly I think you highlighted one of the big opportunities, right, is this incredible demand for content that most brands have to keep up with and most agencies are having to solve for. And that's where these tools are providing such an incredible opportunity to not jeopardize either the brand messaging, the quality of the work, while still achieving everything they need to do from whether it be a growth perspective or just an overall global footprint perspective. These tools are allowing them to do that, right? You can localize content that you've shot. Like it's not all or nothing. You can still shoot your core creative the same way and then utilize tools like Runway to, version it out for different aspect ratios across social surfaces, or swap out the sweater on a character to change seasonality of an ad. There's just so many opportunities where, again, you can take your traditionally produced piece and then leverage AI to expand it to greater usage, larger footprint, and to your point, customization opportunities on top of that.
But Jamie, what about the big question I think that's sort of out there? So, all due respects to you as a creative director. So how far away, wait, hear my question first maybe, but how far away are we from, the AI developing the persona, thinking through who the customer, doing the insight, research generation, developing the big idea, iterations of the big idea, writing the copy, and then validating that copy, and then going and producing the video ad right from that. In other words, it's doing the whole process and bringing a sense of science and expertise in it that creative directors, in my experience, don't even typically do. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, I think you hit on something interesting, which is the scientific data validation of our assumptions, either as strategists or as creatives.
Yeah.
And then the taste and the curation that comes with creative direction. knowing what is or isn't right based on the human emotion that a piece of work evokes versus, data that might tell you otherwise. I think there's always going to be that human in the loop that ultimately guides those decisions. But we can all be better enabled by having greater visibility on things to react to, right? The process of creativity in my mind is reaction more than it is action, right?
That's such a good point. I was thinking, as you were talking, I love this line of thinking, by the way, because I came up in my career in the research tradition, and it wasn't until probably 15 years into my career that I actually met a creative director. And it was more random. I was at Sundance. We were in a theater. We were chatting before, what do you do, et cetera. And it turned out that we both worked for the same TV network. And I was measuring the effectiveness of the ads. He was creating the ads, and he's like, oh my God, I've always wanted to meet you. I want to find the people who have the data. I've never been able to get the data to know what works or what doesn't work, but it drives us crazy because as creative directors, we do this thing, we have all these beliefs, and we have no way to know the loop's closed and did it work, did it not work? Yeah. And so it seems like you can be the one that solves this for a creative world where they can begin to get the feedback. It seems like, Greg's vision of it completely being agentic, yeah, maybe for some, but it still seems like you'll have taste makers involved that's helping to make the system better and more competitive, but it's that ability to close the loop and very quickly iterate. Are you seeing anybody do that yet, where they're beginning to get the feedback?
And have you built that into your system too? Feel free, but go ahead, Jamie.
Yeah. It's such a great question, and really kind of the interesting moment that we're in where agentic solutions are beginning to emerge, right? It's an area of an opportunity to create that feedback loop that allows you to get to better creative, right? Like if we're talking about just traditional creative approach, and I'll think back to like my agency days, so much time in the early part of the process is spent, coming up with the idea, then trying to validate or debunk the idea, poke holes in it, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? Why are all the reasons why it won't?
But that's generally just one person or group talking to each other, say, do you think that's right? Do you think that's right? So they still have a very limited set of evaluative judgment in that, right?
Exactly.
There could be a good history. I don't want to disrespect experience because it does matter, but still.
It's limited. Limited. And that's where I think agentic solutions that can help bring in a greater perspective, greater amount of information for you to react to is what will lead you to better ideas that you can then curate from, right? As a creative director, that's the process. It's never just having an idea and running forward with it. It's getting 100 ideas and then figuring out which amongst them are best suited for the challenge that you're solving for. And with this information now at hand and rapidly able to iterate upon it, you're able to make those decisions a lot faster without missing out on the opportunity to actually have that substantiveness to it.
Yeah, well, the question there is, like, which question is validated good? So listen, Jimmy, you wouldn't know this. Rex and I had the opportunity. He tactically co-founded or developed multi-touch attribution. I popularized it in the marketplace in the role that I had at the time. This is 20 plus years ago. What was interesting about that, and we put this in a book that he and I wrote together about that experience. Here, ready? This is so you're not old enough, so you don't get blamed for this, okay? But you're ready. We found Rex. Do you remember the numbers? We found that in getting a motivation that mattered to consumers, they were wrong 30% of the time, Rex.
Yeah, that's about right.
And in getting a message that communicated to consumers, the consumers didn't get confused. They understood the message. So we're talking binary here. It worked at some level or it didn't work at all. So 30% of all ads failed that we measured. These are big TV campaigns. It's traditional media, mostly, some internet. And then I think the total, Rex, was 47 total campaigns failed on motivation, strategy, in essence, and failed on message. I mean, that's a pretty big indictment. Yeah. I mean, before you spend $1 in media, which, by the way, that next $1 in media would have been wasted, you should have trashed the ad and started again. I mean, that's bad. That's really bad.
It goes to what Jamie was also talking about, where people are sitting around the room having theories about what works. Even if the theory is right, I think the world that's changing here. I mean, think about our work with a certain company, Greg. Well, I'll say the name, and then you'll tell the producer whether we need to cut it out.
We cut it out later. Yeah, go ahead.
AT&T
We'll have
said,
the lawyers look at this. Who was it?
Exactly.
Was it AT&T?
Yeah, AT&T said, hey, we know
Kellen's
that
great.
blue works better than
Oh,
white background with blue writing. And we said, well, could you still develop both because we want the AI to have variation? And it turned out that they were right. Blue does work better than white, but only 58% for 58% of the people. So for the 42% of the people, you want the other version. And that's why you'll need runways, because even if your theory sitting around the table is right, it might only be right for half the population. Then the question is, well, what do you do for the other segments and the other population? That's why I think Runway is so interesting, is because you're going to end up in a world very quickly here, kind of the skyscraper equivalent, which is where, because you can go faster, now you can create personal versions and you don't have to just aim for the middle. You can really cover off all the micro segments of what people want.
Yes.
So I guess the question is, help us get there. It seems like one part we need is sort of a mindset change. Instead of just replacing your same workflow that you had before, creating this new workflow that's more customer centric and that has that feedback loop or something. What are your thoughts on that, Jamie? How do we do that?
Do you guys do research? Jamie, do you guys do research against that, to Rex's question? Do you guys test and evaluate sort of these different variations of what works, what doesn't, and give direction that you now know, or no? Is that not what Runway's role is in the world?
Well, we work very closely with our enterprise partners to understand what they're solving for, what's working from a tool
Okay, I think that you're saying no, you don't do it, but okay. Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me because it's kind of a new thought to even think about production. If you were talking a few years ago with Adobe and their tool set, they wouldn't have thought, oh yeah, I need to figure out A/B split test, which one's more effective. But it seems like your world's going to probably merge into that in the next year or two, would be my guess.
Versioning content, A/B testing, but why stop at A/B now, right? You can go A to Z
True.
testing,
Yeah,
which
that's
is
right.
the big unlock.
That's
True.
right. You nailed it.
Yeah, we're seeing agencies and brands adopt that approach. Even the small things that we don't think about, right? You mentioned the end card for AT&T. That's such a great example of a very small piece of the overall creative that can actually make a pretty big impact. And when you can do that at scale, but not just look at it as a binary, 58-42 split between who likes it and who doesn't. Maybe there's a different shade of white, off-white. Maybe it's a gradated light fall off. Maybe it's a 3D type treatment versus a flat. There's so many ways that you can
much nuance.
dial in, and that's really exciting. And the tools can do that today, right? They can give you that level of variation and customization. It's really just how do you get to the data on what's going to hit, and it's through testing.
Yeah, that's
But Jimmy,
exciting.
the question I'm having though, and listen, I don't know, we can cut this out if you don't like the question, but is Runway doing that now? Okay, so listen, you figured out how to produce cool ads. We think they're representative of the visual videos that people in the consumers in the past would have accepted, and whatever that might be. And the marketers say it's 95% there. I'm going to run the okay. But is Runway in the business of trying to make better ads that mean more to more consumers? Not really, right?
Well, our focus is on building the tools so that you can make the ads. Your teams are making the ads. But we are building our tools in a way that are smarter and more informed, like we were talking about earlier, that can help you make the decisions that might resonate better with your audience. And also give you the flexibility to swap it out if it's not working. You run that ad for 2 days, it's not performing, swap it out for another version.
If you were to do that, I guarantee the MMA would be super excited to dig in and figure out, bring a whole bunch of marketers to go do research against that, by the way. Just FYI.
Yeah, this is why these conversations are super interesting, right?
Yeah.
How do we solve for the problems marketers are really facing, right?
Yeah, and by
Not
the way,
just make an ad.
What's funny about this one, too, listen, it's good for the business and good for the agency if they can get it right and kind of put down their sort of defensiveness sometimes. And it's also good for the consumer and as matter. My problem with television advertising is it teaches consumers to ignore advertising because most of the ads aren't relevant. They're not targeted to me. They don't hit a motivation that matters to me. Sure, I might be in the selection. We could all identify a group that we're in, but our buying patterns are probably and interests are completely different now.
Well, we're on TikTok now, right?
Yeah, we're on TikTok. There you go.
We're watching micro dramas, right?
Yeah,
we're
all the
watching
time.
branded content integrations, and I think, for me, I'm really excited about that. We talked about a new medium earlier, with the premise of general world models, but I think there's also like a very near-term opportunity for brands and marketers to be creating content that lives outside the constructs of a 30-second ad or an interruptive piece
Mm-hmm.
of content that is meant to pull you out of whatever you're doing, whether you're scrolling or flicking through channels. It's designed to engage you in a way where you actually care about characters and story and narrative. And I think that's always been difficult to do as a marketer because it's been so expensive and time consuming, right? But now those constraints are going away.
I love what you're describing. Greg, do you remember the old the BMW ad series when the internet was... It was great. So I happened to do some of the analysis on it, and it was great, but it was ridiculously expensive, the cost per car you sold, to get Guy Ritchie to do a film for you and put on the internet.
I remember hunting down one of those CD-ROMs at a ski hill of all places. They had like a promo going on for BMW, and I was able to grab one. I was one of the few of my friends who did, and yeah, it just
They're awesome.
felt like something you sought out, not something that sought you out, which is a huge difference when you're talking about selling a product.
That's right. And if you can cut the cost down by 90%, which is what you can do, all of a sudden the ability to tell stories for your brands in new ways. I think you're right that there is some new media that's now possible that wasn't really economical before.
And take cross-learning, I think, is part of what Jamie's also the point he's raising here. Hey, Jamie, let me ask you a funny question. Can an AI-developed ad make you cry?
That's a great question. It will at some point, I'm sure. But again,
I think it's doing it now, Jamie. I've seen it.
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I need
You
to
bet.
see this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, look, what is AI? Right, is the real question there. I think AI has been around for a long time. What part of that ad is responsible for? Why did that ad come into being in the first place? Where did the idea come from? Where did the premise emerge? So yeah, definitely, these things will happen. Already are.
Yeah, one of the questions that I get from the board that came up here is back in the conversation in July. We're looking at this. Do we have to label the ad as generated by AI at this point? What's the current thinking on that? Would you guys know?
Well, the first thing that I would actually note is generated by AI versus generated with AI is
Fair
a
enough.
distinction I always like to make, right? These
Fair
are
enough.
tools.
Great.
They're wielded just like CGI or a camera.
We need to put a Surgeon General's warning on the bottom of some kind or something. I don't know. Should we be doing that? Should the marketers have asked this a lot. I mean, I think it's a legit question. Should they do it? Should they not do it? Do they ignore it? Do they just
They
put
don't
it
really
out
do it
there?
with CGI and other tools, which is, I think, where Jamie's going. So, I mean, I guess if it's 100% created, then your question of by and with is a really good question. Is that where you draw
Runway's
the line?
not
It's
had-
kind of the 0-1. If it's not absolutely all done by AI, then it's just really with AI. It's human directors in the loop. So don't label it. Or is it about the actors and whether they are real and the background? I mean, that was what one of the beauty brands was raising, is that they're willing to use AI for the background, but not for the models, because
They would
think
never
that-
use it for the face.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that was there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do
And
we
again,
disclose?
I think
Is there an
that's-
obligation to disclose? Is it better in our interest to disclose? Does Runway have an opinion about that?
Again, I think it really is about, these are tools that we use to create whatever piece of content is out there, much like CGI. And so I do think that distinction between by and with is important in this context. And also, we talked about it earlier, the amount of content that is currently generated online in terms of generated pixels, still relatively small, but that number is going to skyrocket. So I actually think it's the inverse that might be the more prudent approach in the future, where shot footage is actually labeled as shot versus generated.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I was my co-author of Sun on the AI Conundrum. We had the theory that forget trying to label what's AI. Find a way of blockchaining and being able to detect what's real at the moment that it's shot by the camera, so that you can go back and say, now at least I know, everything I assume is AI, and only the things that have the mark of shot footage or becomes the exception to the rule very, very quickly. When do you think we cross over that line where more content in our ecosystem will be either aided by AI or have AI elements in it compared to being 100% non-AI? Or do you think we're already there if you add up all of Greg's viewing on TikTok?
We're approaching
It's a lot.
it pretty quickly.
It's a lot. Yeah.
So the last one is kind of the CTV and linear TV area where maybe that will be slower. But it seems like social media, to your point, it seems like we're probably going to cross that point this year where, do you think we'll cross where over half the content is AI generated or AI assisted?
I think that's a very reasonable assumption, that we are going to get to that point where the majority of the content there is generated in some fashion.
So if that's true, what do you think the best practices are for marketers guiding their agency to get it right, to do a really good job or give guidance? I know last year the problem was that many agencies were saying our marketer actually has a contract term that says we can't use AI, or we have to tell them when we're using AI, and that created friction. I think a lot of those have been removed in this last contract round so that agencies can go faster. But what other best practices are there to support getting this right?
I mean, I think it's approaching it the same way that you approach any production. It's you have brand guidelines to operate within. You have a brand standard that you need to live up to as an agency, right? And I think that's ever more important now than it ever has been before, because it is so much easier to produce content, but it's really hard to produce great content that fits exactly for your brand, carries the tone of voice, has the production value that you've established over decades, centuries for some brands. So that's really the core of it, I think, is maintaining that bar. Is that
a markdown file for you, and then video and audio and different examples? So you have is that what that is? It's a workbook that basically has all the examples. This is what our brand is, so that AI can understand it and read it, or is that what you got? Do you ingest that at Runway, or how should I think about that?
Well, again, we focus on building the tool sets that agencies or brands and their teams can utilize to create the work. We do have things like references and applications within where you can bring in your brand elements to ensure that consistency. And so part of that, it's the quality of the generation that, you need to hold to the highest standard of your brand, but it's also the storytelling, right? The narrative choices, the curation, the creative direction. Those are things that, you can't just tell a model. Those still require your point of view as a brand and as a creative to, live up to the standards that you've set.
Great. Jamie, this is really interesting. I mean, and listen, just to the listener, you guys have raised hundreds of millions of dollars in pursuit of perfecting this. It's very serious. Company's only, less than 8 years old, it looks like, something like that. So, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing so that they made the decision to lead in this, and then what's happened with generative AI and where the world has now developed. I mean, in some regards, it's great timing, but we Godspeed you to go figure this out and help the industry. We think it needs it.
Much appreciated. Very excited to have had this conversation.
Yeah, thanks you for coming on the show, and really appreciate your perspective. That's it for this episode of Decoding AI for Marketing. I'm Rex Briggs.
And I'm Greg Stuart.
Be sure to catch all our episodes, plus subscribe, follow, rate, and review in your favorite podcast app. Or if you'd like to create a video on Runway as a tribute to the show, please post that on YouTube or check us out on YouTube. You can get the transcripts and more information on our website, decodingaiformarketing.com.
And if you need to learn any more about the Marketing Media Alliance and membership options even, please go to mmaglobal.com. Thanks for listening, everyone. See you in 2 weeks.